am in L.A. In L.A. And as you can see, I'm in L.A. Right? We got LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook.
Are we really going to bring up the Lakers? God dang it.
Hold on. No. I'm not mentioning them. I just
We're
mentioned the
all
players.
leaving.
I didn't say the team.
This
We got
players.
Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And the playoffs started in L.A. and ain't a damn game happening, okay? Like a damn morgue in this city because of the contaminations that has taken place with these two teams. Don't get me started. So to see the NBA provide this level of excitement, of entertainment, with stars everywhere. I mean, it just touches my heart. I'm loving the NBA right now. And the Golden State Warriors are a big reason why. Lethal Weapon 3. The message the Warriors have sent is, y'all must have forgot who the hell we are.
So,
We
Can
come.
I just be clear on two things? I just want to be clear. So, Stephen A., you're in L.A., right? I just want to be clear.
The one thing, Stephen A. and JJ,
And your outfits fly, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
And you were at Catch last
because
night, right?
my job, I want Dave Roberts to make sure I'm doing my job, is just to clarify what's happening on the show and to recap. So I just want to clarify and recap.
That's hilarious. Okay, the one caveat I will put on this series, JJ, is like the Nuggets are probably the worst matchup versus the Warriors. That's the one thing. I'm not knocking how good Jordan Poole is looking. The system has been amazing. Warriors, red alert, woo woo, lethal weapon 3, whatever.
Lethal Weapon 3.
They got 48% of their shots last night were considered uncontested according to our stats and research team. Like, that's not going to happen moving forward. Not that they're not a good team, though, but I'm just saying, let's keep that in mind.
They created those opportunities.
Well,
the
that's
way they
what I was
moved the
gonna say.
basketball without the ball.
There was a long stretch of seasons, and I don't quite remember the seasons it was, but it was 3 or 4 seasons. And if you looked at the players who shot the most uncontested threes in the NBA, number 1 was Steph and number 2 was Clay. So much of beating the Warriors is having the basketball intellect to deal with their movement, their cutting, their screening. I just don't think the Denver Nuggets have that. So the question becomes, Stephen A., does Memphis have that? Does Phoenix have that? Which I think they do. This potential second round matchup with Memphis, and I think this Memphis Minnesota matchup is awesome, and I expect this to be maybe the second most entertaining series after Nets Celtics.
Okay.
But that is what is required to beat the Warriors. Draymond Green as the quarterback defensively, Draymond Green as the quarterback offensively, dictating traffic, dictating cutters, dictating ball movement side to side. There's so much, and I played against this. I played against iteration 1 and iteration 2 of the Warriors dynasty, pre-Kevin Durant, with Kevin Durant. By the way, I love Lethal Weapon 3. Not just because of Poole, Thompson, and Curry, but this in some ways is the 3rd iteration of this Warriors championship window. And so there's sort of a double meaning there. I'm glad, by the way, that you say that matchups matter, because this is a terrible matchup for the Nuggets. To beat the Warriors, you obviously need basketball talent, and they're missing Jamal Murray, they're missing Michael Porter Jr., but you need high-level basketball IQ. This is what makes the Warriors so great, and it starts with Draymond Green. His stat line last night, 6 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, 3 steals, a block, nothing that jumps out at you, but he was the quarterback on both sides of the ball last night. His passing, the ability to just move the ball, screen, direct traffic, and of course his defense on Jokic. He's making it tough on the reigning MVP and potentially the 2-time MVP. Every basket Jokic has to work for. There's so many times throughout this game and in game 1 where the Warriors are running basic screening action. Denver's trying to switch. They're point switching. The Warriors know this. Andrew Wiggins is getting slips to the basket. They're point switching from the lane. So the guy screening on Klay Thompson screens his own guy. Klay gets a wide open 3. So much is required to beat this team. So you need the talent, but you also need the intellect. And I just want to briefly touch on this new version of the Warriors' death lineup. Small sample size, very small sample size.
I agree.
But in 11 minutes so far in this series, Curry, Thompson, Poole, Wiggins, Draymond Green, 11 minutes. They've got a 204 offensive rating a 75 defensive rating, a 129 net rating per 100 possessions. This lineup, that lineup, against any team in the league is going to be tough to beat.
Well, let me say this to you, JJ Redick, because I love how you love your analytics. I mean, you pull out those numbers, and I'm not knocking it. Let me finish.
We saw it.
You're not wrong.
We saw it, and the numbers backed it up.
But it's interesting because you are an athlete.
Let me say to you, before
so
you get all sensitive, JJ Redick, I just finished saying you're right. You make a valid point. I'm not disputing anything that you said. But I'm going to go with the eye test because that's what I like to focus on, because in the end, there are certain things that ain't about numbers. There's elements that take place within the throes of a game, as you well know, where, you just feed off of it. Like I told you before, I've often wondered, I've looked at you on many, many occasions throughout your career. And what I loved about your game wasn't just that you could shoot. It was that you could shoot on the run, you could shoot on the move, and more importantly, you had a penchant for making big-time shots. You made shots that galvanized people around you and upped their level of fervor and play. That matters. When you're sitting up there and, you've got this kind of ambiance where you're mumbling and nothing really, you're not passionate about anybody. Impassionate, and just being impassioned is really, really your signature. That is not something that usually works for champions, okay? You got to have that little extra oomph. And I'm saying that when you look at Golden State in San Francisco balling, in the moments that they do what they do, it deflates somebody. And I love the fact that you brought up IQ. Because when I looked at Denver yesterday, I felt so bad. Yeah, I felt bad for Jokic because Jamal Murray wasn't out there, because he's the kind of brother that would have kept him in the game because he'd have had 40, okay? He's one of those dudes, all right? But still in all, they would have found a way to lose a series like this because the matchup just doesn't work. Whereas when you think about Phoenix, what do you think about? The IQ of CP3. I'm with some people last night watching the game. I said, if that's CP3 and Golden State is making this run, CP3 gets the ball and he's like, calm down, everybody. And all of a sudden, he dictates the pace. He calls the right play. He does something not just to put a point in the basket, but to quell the momentum of Golden State, because that's how he can read things. That's why he's the best point guard in the world, approaching 37 years of age in less than 2 months. He's that damn lethal. And that is what Golden State's going to have to deal with. But the lethal weapon 3, hold on to that. Remember, I majored in advertising and communications too before I switched to mass communications. I know these headlines. Lethal weapon 3. That's the way to go, y'all. That's the tagline. Remember that.
It's much better than one I saw on Twitter last night, PTSD. I do think we're skipping a step here, though, Stephen A.
Okay.
Because when we talk about matchups, you're sort of skipping the Western Conference semifinals. And obviously, Memphis down 1-0, big game tonight. We'll talk about that. But to me, Memphis is a team that could potentially beat the Warriors. I don't think the Timberwolves are capable of beating the Warriors, but I think Memphis, they match up well with them. They had success against them in the regular season. That's obviously a very confident group. Mm-hmm. And Taylor Jenkins is a hell of a coach. So I do think that matchup-wise is a potential hurdle for this Suns-Warriors conference final.
I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. I'm saying at the end of the day, what we hope for, what we're wishing for and anticipating is Golden State versus Phoenix. But I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm not summarily dismissing that. Now, Memphis got to handle their business, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But when I look at these Warriors, the team that I see